Perfectly normal to want to kill a patient that's leaving therapy prematurely. Nothing like a little good dark humor to sprinkle into the penultimate episode of The Patient Auschwitz. I'm giving my thoughts and reactions to the latest episode right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be among the first to know. As I said, the penultimate episode of The Patient for FX is here, called Auschwitz. The last episode left us with a bit of a time clock. We know that now Alan is under the gun, and he has to do anything humanly possible to try to extend this time out, to keep going, grasp at straws, if you will, so that Sam doesn't take his life. But Sam is steadfast in saying, I'm getting this new therapist. This didn't work. We're switching out. And so in some of his disassociative state, Alan has another session with Charlie, if you will. And they're going back and forth. He's having dreams of Auschwitz, a concentration camp, and waking up a therapist, which is a big no-no. You don't wake them up. And Charlie's like, what did you do? I woke him up. Oh crap, what are you doing? And what does that mean? And so when he finishes going spitballing with Charlie, he wakes up and he continues to sharpen that shift. And then he calls for Sam. He tells Sam to wake up, we need to talk. And he starts to put into motion a game plan, if you will, for Sam to at least just test some other things out. Sam is very stuck in his ways. Like, yeah, cool, no matter what, I'm killing you in a couple of days because you know too much and I'm getting a new therapy. I'm just moving on to the next person. Alan says, hey, that's perfectly fine. I get that. But in the meantime, you still have days with me before we get to that Tuesday. So let's take that time to kind of try something different, try something new, so that when you go to your therapist, you've tried all the tools you possibly can so that they can be off and running with something new that may work better in your end. And Sam calls him out on it like, hey, I know what you're doing. And Alan, another bit of dark humor, but it's funny because it's true. I'm human. So yeah, of course I don't want you to kill me. Why? Yeah, I'm going to try everything humanly possible. And even Sam has a bit, probably the one time that he actually smiles or has a bit of a laughing moment in that is that he's like, yeah, I get that. So he sits. But he's like, nothing we've done is working. I'm still moving on. Alan sort of puts as a seed to kind of start this whole thing off is like, look, I think you need something meaningful in your life. You need something meaningful in your life to take you off of your problematic obsessions. If you have a love or someone you care about or a relationship or anything, it will give you something to remove your brain from all the things that are so terrible. When you get mad or angry about some of the bad stuff, you'll be like, hey, I got this person to think about and live for. So it is harder for you to just dive into the despair of those problematic obsessions. And so he says, hey, you should call Mary over for a brunch. And he's kind of reluctant, but then he does it, texts her, and she's like, yeah, she's down. So it's going to happen. And I was like, cool. Alan's initial plan, and it seems like if he has the gall to do it, it's like, hey, I'm gonna put this new shiv under my thing. I'm gonna scream up to the high heavens like, Mary, come get me. I'm down here. That is the plan. He says, hey, tell you what, because I know you don't know what you're doing in this relationship or in this conversation. You should get a nanny cam. He's like, okay, and then he calls mom down to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call her over for brunch. She's like, do you think that's a good idea? He's like, I do think it's a good idea. Now, I don't know if in this moment Sam has told his mother that he plans to switch therapists and thus end Alan's life. I don't think it doesn't seem like she's aware of that. But she's very adamant of like, why would we does that seem like a good idea? Why would we do that? And honestly, she's more concerned about probably why would you bring somebody here, another person here, who can either be in harm's way for my son, or you're going to scream to the high heavens to try to bring some attention to. But all in all, the plan still goes on. That's what Sam's going to do, and Alan has gotten Sam to follow this plan. He buys a nanny cam, he sets it up, he puts it in place, But before he goes up there and before she comes over, two things that I have to mention. One is pretty important is that he checks Alan a little bit, like, "Hey, yo, I know what you're doing, and you're thinking that, hey, because I love Mary or I have feelings for Mary, that I won't kill her. I call your bluff. I will. So don't do anything stupid or try to cause attention." And at that moment, you can immediately see that Alan starts questioning his game plan. He's like, I don't want to be responsible for the death of someone because I've seen what that feels like. I've seen it. I've seen you kill Elias. Like I've seen it all. I don't want to go through that again, and I don't want to put her in harm's way or do anything harmful to her because she didn't do anything to get into the situation. Essentially, bringing her in and using her as a bait to get what it is I want out of this. The second is Sam clearly doesn't just know how to converse with folks. He has a moment where where Alan asks him, like, "All right, what are you getting for brunch?" And he's like, "Yeah, this cool Indian place." And Alan's like, "Oh, great. She loves Indian," and Sam's like, "No, she hates it." Anybody who's been in any type of relationship knows that you don't get the food that the person hates to bring to a brunch. And I was like, well, if you try to impress her or to get into good graces with her or to bring her in, you shouldn't get something that she doesn't like. And he's like, oh, no, you're right. I should do this. It's clear that any type of courting or anything that a man figure, a male figure, would teach their son has never gotten to him because his male figure has been gone or caused a lot of the abuse that's there. Um, so he just doesn't know how to speak to women, but it's also a thing he just does not speak to people. Period. So we have a whole fun little interaction where he was like, "All right, you be Mary and I'll be you, and we'll have a talk." And then we reverse it, and he's still just like, I don't, none of this is working. I don't get this. He just can't he can't formulate words or be in a situation where he ever feels where he's not in control. When he feels out of control, that's when Sam kind of gets giddy, itchy, and loses it. And that control could be that he's out of control because he's in fear or he's in pain or he's sad or he's angry. Whatever, anything that makes him feel something frightens him, and that's when he just goes off the rails. But he goes up and has this whole little brunch with Mary and his mom, and Alan's watching from the nanny cam. And Alan has the shiv, the ready-made shiv under his leg, ready to strike at a moment's notice. And he's just watching. You can just see Alan kind of biding his time, waiting when's the perfect moment to sort of strike or to get this in. And he gets it. He gets a couple of them actually. One of them, and it's a cute little thing. Again, he just doesn't he continues to always, because he has no lessons taught to him, he has never been taught anything. The male figure is gone, so he's just learning where he can. He tried to, he saw the person he killed, his boss that he killed last time playing table tennis, so he wants to play table tennis. He grasps for knowledge from things everywhere because he just doesn't have anybody to teach him anything. And so he uses the joke that Alan gave at the very end of last episode about the Jewish man, the French man, however many people he put in there, and just butchers the joke about the three deaths. He destroys it to the point where even Alan has a reaction like, "What is he doing?" He knows he's butchering it. After he tells the joke and no one reacts to it, he gets up and leaves and goes back downstairs to kind of get a pep talk, if you will, from Alan. It's at that point where he's basically Alan, this is something that stage folks know if you do theater or anything. Alan is in a place of power. He is over Sam. Sam is below him on the knee, kind of like watching the nanny cam, like, what do I do next? And he's at head or neck level to just get a stab. Now, the thing is, that shiv's not sharp. We don't know how sharp it is and how much force he's going to put on it. So he doesn't know what that's going to do to it. And he doesn't know, if he does do this, how much danger he's going to put Mary in. If it was just him, I think he might have gone ahead and stabbed her, but he's still thinking like, hey, I can't get her killed. He's already stated that he would go in there. So we just get this moment of intensity of like, will he do it? Will he do it? Oh crap, this is your moment. This is your one time to try to at least go for it. Take a shot. And he doesn't do it. Sam goes back up, finishes the dinner. They start talking about the recliner chair and all of that. And that's kind of when things are a little bit murky with the mom, because in that She thinks like, I kind of miss the recliner chair. He's like, oh, I can bring it back to you. And she's like, no, that's not a big deal. Mom mentions that the chair came from was his father's favorite chair, and then that's when Sam brings up uncomfortably that like my dad used to beat the crap out of me, and that's why I sought therapy. It is in that moment where you can tell that Sam's mom is uncomfortable. She just gets up and starts packing things up and like I don't want to be a part of this conversation. Whatever abuse that happened to him and probably to her, she also does not know how to verbalize. A lot of where Sam can't say what it is that he feels, um, and he does his in like anger and it just push that energy out. It's clear that his mom takes it all in and just kind of like retreats and goes like, I'm gonna clean. I don't want to be around. I don't want to talk about this. She doesn't want to have the conversation where he's all like, anybody who hurts me or anybody who makes me feel any type of pain, sadness, anger, I have to do something. She just retreats. And in that retreat, Mary's like, yo, this might be my time to get up out of here. So Mary's like, I should leave. So at that moment that we see Alan have that little visual image, like, start screaming, hey, Mary, I'm down here. Please come help me. Call the police now. But we all know, unfortunately, that's all in his head, and Alan's just still sitting there with nothing to do. In that, he takes his ready-made shiv and knows that that was his last ditch effort, and this isn't happening. He puts it behind the nightstand and knows that, well, I'm stuck here. So much for that. We hear Mary get in the car and take off, and then we see Sam come down through the back door and say, so she says that we as exes should still be friends, and we should do this thing every like year. And that's when you can start seeing him getting emotions. Like she doesn't want to be in a relationship with me. Um, why did we do this? Like this makes me feel something. Why did we do this? This was wrong. And Ellen is sitting there like, well, this is something that we should be doing. Like you should go and put yourself out there and get rejected, and put yourself out there again and rejected, and put yourself out there to find the one that actually works for you. Everyone goes through this type of thing. It's a process that people have to do to kind of figure out what is best for them. Rejection is a part of life and all of that. And she's like, no, I don't like to feel this way. I don't like to feel this way. And it's this really making him angry. And Alan's like, hey, look, these feelings are normal. But it's clear that anytime you feel these feelings, you want to attack. You always want to attack. And sometimes it's best to just kind of let them be and accept them, live in them, and then move on to get to the next piece. And it's then Sam's like, no, I gotta move on. You're done. I'm moving on to Mr. Pacelli, and I will do this, and like I'm done with you. And Alan's like, okay, cool. That is where you're going. You're saying you're going to Dr. Pacelli. Perfectly fine. But when you get to Dr. Pacelli, I want you to do me a favor. I need you to completely lean into talking about what it is, the specifics of what it is your father did to you. And Sam's like, I told you what my father did. She's like, no, we talked about that at the very beginning, but I think that is where the source of all of your issues come from. You need to tell him what he did, why you think he did it to him, everything to it. You need to get under the hood of everything your father did to you, because I think that is where everything stems from. It's at that point that Alan sort of triggers something in Sam, unfortunately. And they start talking about how the way that Sam's dad treated him and how he was always beat up by his dad and everything, and you wanted to take that out on your dad, but you couldn't. You're taking out on all these other people. Sam questions like, hey, you think I kill all of these other people because of my dad? And Alan says, I think you're killing them instead of your dad. Oh boy. Why did you say that, Alan? Because that set him off. And in that, Sam goes to his room, grabs his computer, and he has clearly this man watches serial killers. He studies all this. This guy, again, learns everything about his life, anything that he does, from food to how he talks to women, to the games he plays, to the kills he does. Everything he has learned from society, from the world, from studying other people, because he's never had a figure. His father beat him, so he never got any tail from them. His mom runs away from every situation, so he's never got anything from them. So anything that he's learned from this. So he brings out a computer that is a serial killer. I believe his name is Kemper, who's talking about their old kills, and he killed women in the vein of how he killed his mom, and killing his mom gave him the catharsis that he needed to kind of get over all the other killings that he was doing. And he killed his mom and then decapitated her and then had sex, as they said, fuck the skull. Uh, and that is like Sam, like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. So you're saying that if I kill my dad, then I won't want to kill anybody else. And for him, everything is so black and white. There is no nuance to anything that Sam does. And so he immediately is now like a dog with a bone. Like, I gotta go kill my dad. Like, that's what's gonna fix all this. And I was like, hold on, I did not say go do that. Like, what do you? Don't kill your father. He's like, no. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go kill him. I'm gonna cut off his head. I'm gonna fuck his skull. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not really gonna fuck his skull. And that's a super dark line and twisted, and it shows you that there is a bit of humor in Sam, but he's off to the races to now go kill his dad. It's interesting because in this episode, Alan's game plan was to either extend this out enough so that he can attack Sam, or so that he can announce to Mary that I'm down here. Neither of those happened. So now he has sort of set Sam off on this path, and the best thing that can come out of this, while another person may end up dead, the best thing that can come out of this is that maybe Sam brings his father back to the basement, and there's a massive therapy session that sort of happens there. I think that's the only way that this can kind of, the final episode, it's the only way that this can kind of end, is that if he brings the dad back, he doesn't kill the dad wherever he's at, he traps him, brings him back, and then they just have a just gut wrenching, get it all out. Mom's there. Mom's probably going to kill dad. Who knows? But I think that is sort of how this culminates, is that the dad is brought back to this location, and everybody kind of just converses on that basement and gets all their emotions out. Ezra doesn't show up at all in this episode. In the last episode, we spent the entire time talking about Ezra, but it was paralleling the same thing where Sam killed somebody pretty much while it was nighttime in broad daylight. Like, he killed him in clear view of people. There are cameras on that street, I'd imagine. So somebody's going to see him. So I'm thinking that while this all converses down on that basement, hopefully Ezra the police has gotten some type of clue to tip to be at this home. But I think this is all going to culminate in that basement with his dad, his mom, Sam, and Alan, and a lot of conversations, a lot of tears, a lot of anger, and a lot of people close to some very, very tumultuous deaths. But that's how I see the final episode going. But this was good. It wasn't the stand on the edge of my seat intensity that I thought I was going to have the entire episode. We got a little bit when he's possibly going to stab him. But it is a lot of getting under the hood more of what it is that Sam, some of the issues that Sam has, and it made a little things a lot more clearer to me about, oh, he just hasn't had any type of parental figure to learn from, and so all of his actions, not only has not had anything to learn from, but he hasn't had anybody to teach him how to allow emotions to just be a part of him. And I think because all of that abuse happened when he was young, it just stunted his ability to kind of love and let that happen, and now he's kind of just stuck. And so anything that makes him feel weaker, and he has to just attack. It's a really great character study that I think is happening in this show, and I'm excited. This is one of those shows that I'm like, is it midnight yet? And I keep refreshing Hulu over and over again. Please let me have it. I'm on the West Coast, so I get to see it at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock my time. And so I just keep refreshing. Like, please be there. Please be there. So I can't wait until next week when we finally get to that final episode. But what did you guys think about this penultimate episode of FX's The Patient? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI or hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.